Webcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Anna Lee Matthews and I have with me today Di Lauder from the PT Council of New Zealand and Matt O'Neill from Metabolic Jumpstart. Now, just before I hand over to Di, who will officially introduce Matt, for those of you who haven't experienced one of our webinars before, on that GoToWebinar control panel that you can see on your screen, there's a section called Questions. Now, this is where you can type any question that you might have for Matt throughout his presentation. So then at the end of the session, I'll pass all those questions over to Matt and he can answer them for everyone to hear. So that's how you can forward your questions to us throughout the session. For now, let me hand over to Di Lauder from the PT Council of New Zealand.
Hi, thank you, Annalie. On behalf of the Personal Trainers Council of New Zealand, it is our pleasure to welcome you, Matt. To briefly explain Matt's background, Matt is a qualified dietitian. He lives in Australia. Matt is a director of SmartShape Centre for Weight Management. He provides nutritional training and tools that assist fitness professionals. Matt's nutrition system, Metabolic Jumpstart, has helped over thousands of people. Matt, I know I can speak for the many listeners tuned in today from the fitness industry about how excited we are to hear insights about us as PTs, how we can manage a sometimes too common issue where our clients whose weight loss seems to stop and plateau for no obvious reason. And it can leave us trainers perplexed and our clients frustrated and even blaming us as trainers for their lack of progress with your weight loss. So please share with us what you can. We're really excited. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks Jean, Di, and the PT Council for having me speak. I'm quite excited to share a few things with you today. We've got a short time, half an hour, including some questions. So I'm going to move through relatively quickly, and I hope that I present a coherent explanation as to why plateaus do occur, both the core science behind it and also some breaking research that we can use to explain to our clients. And I hope I give you, a step-by-step process for how to assess a plateau and to break through that. Because if we can just help our clients get through plateaus, they'll probably stick with us as clients. So not only will it be more rewarding for us professionally, but also more rewarding financially. We won't lose the clients if we can deal better with plateaus. So that's what we're going to get stuck into today. Start writing down your questions. And also, just to mention at the end, a usual thing with webinars, I'll have a special offer with you to learn some more and some freebies, so watch out at the end and write down my email at the end. Okay, let's get stuck into it. The first thing to consider is why, in all these pictures here, can some people lose dramatic amounts of weight, i.e. half their size. And if you've ever bought the 1st January, like the January 6th issue of People magazine or Who Weekly, guaranteed every year for the past decade or more, there will be the headline, half their size. And it's unbelievable, how can somebody just drop that when they've carried that much weight, whereas some people just can't seem to budget. And that's what we want to look at today to explain why do some people get through these plateaus and why some people don't, and what you can do with the people who don't. So first up, we're going to look at the theoretical versus actual weight loss, because it's easy to think that you could go from a larger weight to a smaller weight and lose, say, 1 kilo every week and you're happy. I mean, there's nothing that motivates like results, and clients expect to see them. If they watch The Biggest Loser, and I'm sure this frustrates the crap out of you, they expect not to lose 1 kilo a week, but they want to lose 3 kilos, 4 kilos a week. Well, I'll let you know a secret. In the real world, Biggest Loser time is not reality. Biggest Loser time is about 2 weeks for our 1 week. So they've got some extra time to lose that. But it doesn't happen like this, does it? It tends to go in fits and starts. Some people just lose the weight, it just drops off them. Others, it doesn't even budge for 4 weeks, for 8 weeks, and I'm going to explain that to you. So the usual process, different to this theoretical weight loss, is where somebody might lose weight faster than expected. That's not surprising because they can lose a lot of fluid, particularly if they've been consuming a lot of carbohydrate. Somebody's been pasta, rice, just pizza, just big serves of carbs, and they suddenly cut those carbs down and limit them. then they're going to drop a lot of fluid. And probably the biggest component of your first week's weight loss is going to be fluid. Now, of course, that doesn't continue, so that's when the rate of weight loss slows down, and it might even slow down a bit slower than what that theoretical weight loss would be. That's normal and to be expected. And then you might hit it, and the common place I find it is, it's normally about 3, 4, 5 weeks or so into a program of exercise and diet where somebody does hit a plateau. Now, there's no formal definition of a plateau. It's really in the eye of the beholder, which means that if somebody says, oh, I haven't lost weight today, well, of course, I'm going to say, don't freak out. You know, you don't just lose weight every day, but over a week, 3 or 4 weeks in, they might go, I didn't lose any weight today. You know, why is that? And I'm sure this raises all sorts of questions for you guys, and we'll go through these. But they persist, and then it drops down a bit. They go, oh, great, okay, I'll stick at it because, you know, it's going to work for me. But then they hit what could possibly be the final plateau. And the key thing, the key take-home message here is plateaus will happen. They will happen. They are perfectly normal, as you'll see, and you almost have to prepare a client for them, which means do not leave it until your client hits a plateau to have a discussion about a plateau, because you've got to tell them almost when they start with you that at some stage, could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, could be 8 weeks, could be 3 months, you're going to hit a plateau, and we're going to come up with some different strategies at that point. Forewarn them, and then you can come back later and say, hey, remember we spoke about a plateau? Now we're going to try something different. If you leave it until they get to the plateau, then they'll run because they're surprised. This is not working, okay? So it's quite normal to go down in steps, and at the end of this presentation, I'm going to show you a couple of case studies of my clients who've lost a lot of weight and have done it in this stepwise fashion. So that's actual weight loss. There's another concept which is like settling points or set point theory, and what this little graph here shows you is that body weight can go up or down. And think about your own weight. Think about your maximum adult weight and your minimum adult weight. You could probably increase it if you tried. Let's say you ate every day like Christmas Day. And I'll give you a free pass for Christmas Day, okay? You can eat what you like, that's perfectly fine. But if you do that every day, you'll probably get to a size where your weight will level out. It will buffer out. And the same thing there is if you want to reduce your weight, let's say you go on a semi-starvation diet, 500 calories, 2,000 kilojoules, you'll lose weight probably dramatically at first, but you'll bottom out to a lower level. And these upper and lower levels are programmed by our genetics. And that makes sense. Genetics can be anywhere between 30 and 70% of our weight. And often people don't say, I want to get taller. I mean, I'm 5'7". I've been 5'7" since I was 13. I think between 13 and 18, I thought I was going to get taller. But then after 18, I gave up. So I don't try and stretch myself taller because I understand genetics play a role. But of course, clients come to you, don't they? And they say, I want to change my weight. How can I do that? But there's an upper and lower genetic level. And also remember, that's pre-programmed for shape. If somebody's got a dramatic pear shape, larger hips, a thin waist, they're not going to become a pencil. They're going to become a smaller pear shape. So recognize these genetics in that zone there. Now you can change what you eat. So you could reduce food intake from fat, alcohol, carbohydrate, and protein on the left. You can increase energy expenditure on the right. Your baseline metabolic rate, your BMR could increase. The TF, the thermic effect of food, could increase. You can do that by having protein, chilled water, chewing more food, all increases the energy expenditure there. Or you can do a lot of physical activity. But there's a limit to how much we can do. And I guess what I want to tell you is there's a point at which if you add on more activity, then it switches the balance in terms of hormones, which will then keep fat on the body. So for some of your clients, even yourself, it might actually be easing up on your training to try and reset some of this hormonal balance that I'm going to get to. And with the steps I'll show you, that should be evident. So we do use diet and exercise, but there's a limit. Even for me, with all my tricks, there's a limit to how much I can get results with diet and exercise. And it's a puzzle. Is it diet? Is it exercise? Is it hormones? Is it medical conditions? Is it some psychological condition? I had a client the other day, 5 sessions in, 5 telecoaching sessions in, she admitted at the end of it, when we were on a plateau, that she had a diagnosed psychological disorder where she cannot feel emotion. Imagine that. So she doesn't know whether she's hungry, whether she's full, whether she's angry, whether she's sad. She can't feel emotion. Psychologically diagnosed, and it's related to an eating disorder. So I knew, back to the psychologist straight away. So sometimes this puzzle gets very, very confusing. Let's work with the basics first. So let's look at the process of weight loss. And I want to show you a diagram here, because often, pictures are easier to get, and look at what things influence our weight. It's our behavior, so we can eat less, we can move more. It's the environment, which means, what food is around us. The biggest driver of obesity now is availability of cheap food. So your dollar hamburgers are what is driving obesity. Never before has food been cheaper. It's also biology. So your genetics, how much genetic programming, and obviously those people that lose half their size, and your successful clients that go from 130 kilos down to like 90 or 80 kilos, they lose like 30 or 40 kilos, they don't have a strong genetic component. They've just ate themselves fat. And they're the best type of clients to have, because, it's just lifestyle. If they drink less, eat less, and move more, guaranteed they're going to lose weight. So what we've got is the behavior, what we do, the environment, which is the influence around you. And just to give you another example of environment, I'm sitting on a fitball and I'm rolling around to get some incidental activity, so I'm not sitting in the same place, because I sit in front of a computer most days. Sitting is the new smoking. So think of it this way with your client. It's not just the half hour they're exercising with you. You've got to think 23 and a half hours a day. How much activity are they doing? And if they're sitting for 8 to 10 hours a day, possibly to break through a plateau, you've got to get them standing, you've got to get them on a fitball, you've got to get them moving around, taking breaks every half an hour. Okay, and that's genetics underneath it. So we're in weight balance at the moment. Let's have a look at biology. Muscle mass, metabolic rate, hunger hormones, and stress hormones. The biggest thing I want to stress is muscle mass. You've got to keep muscle on your clients. If they want to do a fad diet, say 500 calories like a detox, they're going to lose muscle. Today, study came out, found that 18% of weight loss in a program was from muscle. Now, muscle burns 10 calories at rest every kilo every day. Basically, that adds up. If you can put a kilo of muscle on your client, they will automatically burn 1 extra kilo of body fat a year. Now, I know some of the beefy boys listening might have like 20 kilos of muscle. You're burning the equivalent of 20 kilos of fat automatically just because you're a bodybuilder. So I'm not saying become a bodybuilder, but I'm saying build your muscles like a bodybuilder. And when somebody says to me, why don't you go on a detox, Matt, trial this product for us, I go, no way, I'm going to lose muscle. If I lose muscle, I lose my metabolic rate. So it's all about metabolism and maintaining muscle mass. Hunger hormones, stress hormones, I'm going to come to those a bit later, but just think about it this way. If somebody's doing everything right for diet, everything right for exercise, and you think, wow, you're my star client, you're just not losing weight, it may be their hormonal balance. So not only are we looking at calories in, calories out, we're actually having now to eat for hormonal balance. And for some clients, I sort of think, okay, this is a biochemistry issue for you. It's not just a numbers game of calories in, calories out, it's a biochemistry issue. And I'll show you which hormones a bit later we're coming to. What about behavior? Well, we know behavior quite well. It's exercise, it's alcohol, it's sugar drinks, it's portion sizes, it's exchanges of foods, it's dieting. And if there are any of you guys listening that you'd like to become a little bit leaner, to see more of those muscles, I'd challenge you that you probably eat healthy, but you just eat too much food. Too much carbs, too much fruit, too much protein. Then you have a protein shake on top of it. So behavior, we need to check, oh, yeah, I'm sticking to my diet, but are you overdoing it on healthy food? And that becomes very tricky. Maybe some questions on that at the end. But obviously with behavior, we're trying to reduce calorie intake and we're trying to increase calorie expenditure. What about the environment? Well, you look at these escalators here. I love to run up the down escalators at the supermarket and the shopping centres because I get more exercise. I go to Bunnings and I walk up the down travelator, which is like a 30-metre treadmill. How much fun is that? So getting more activity in your day, like not sitting, is really, really important. So in the environment, we've got to try and control what we can. And I think you've got to go beyond your 30-minute once-a-week session to get clients more active the rest of the time. So a 24-hour activity log, steps, trackers, that sort of thing are fantastic for knowing what your client is. Strap a GoPro to them so you can see the video of what they've been doing. And if all you see on the video is them watching TV, you know they need to pull their finger out and do more activity. So you've got to control the rest of the activity because that burns more calories. Okay, so let's have a look now. What if you go on a diet? Well, you shift your behaviour by reducing what you eat and increasing your exercise. You change your environment, which means you might be walking to work, say, but the biology stays the same and the genetics stay the same. And what happens is when you start to tip that scale for weight loss, so this seesaw is going down on the right for weight loss, then what happens is biology slides up the other end. If you can ever remember as a kid when you're on the seesaw and your mate slides right up the back and then he sort of jumps off, and you know what trouble you can be in. So this biology protects it. Now, if you cut your food down dramatically and you increase exercise, your body says, whoa, have we just been dumped out in the desert and we're running and foraging for food each day because there's no fridges around here. I'm starving. So what happens is your biology starts to slow down your metabolic rate, and it may even cause a loss of muscle mass as well. So biology sort of protects you. Otherwise, you just keep losing and losing and losing. In the extreme, anorexia is where somebody completely overrides their normal biological protection to lose weight. So your biology protects you. It's natural to do that, and that's what causes the plateau. There's a reduction in metabolic rate by up to 20%. So that reduces the energy cost of exercise. It reduces your total energy burn over a day. And this sort of makes sense, doesn't it? If you have a client who drops 10 kilos, they're suddenly not carrying around 10 kilos of weight anymore, are they? So they need to up their intensity. They need to up their effort level. They need to do more activity. Here's some other figures on metabolic rate. Within 24 hours of restricted food intake, and we're talking like a fad diet or a detox, 5% drop. It'll drop by 15 to 20%. Cellular energy use slows by 15%. Diets below 5,000 kilojoules per day exacerbate this decline in reduced energy expenditure. I would not cut anybody's diet below 5,000 kilojoules. One, you can't nourish them with enough vitamins and minerals to fix their biochemistry. And two, they'll lose muscle mass. Three, their metabolic rate will decline. So you've got to protect this muscle mass, nothing too dramatic with your clients. Then there are the hormonal changes, and I guess this is the real new stuff that we can reveal is affecting people's ability to break through plateaus. If you lose a lot of weight, leptin hormone decreases. That's our natural fat thermostat. That drives food intake. Insulin levels drop. That can drive food intake. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, goes up. That makes you more hungry. Cortisol, the stress hormone, increases energy storage as well as increasing craving. So a key thing in this whole webinar is if you've got a client that's been pushing themselves really hard with training, reducing their food intake, they could be overtraining and under-eating, and if they do those two things, that's going to increase cortisol, which hangs on to body fat. So it's a bizarre concept, but imagine easing up on your training could actually get you the breakthrough that you've been looking for. I'll come back to that. And of course, could be thyroid function reducing as well. So these hormones are very protective, and it's a no-brainer that one of my recommendations is going to be to get some of these hormones checked, and I'll tell you which ones. Okay, so what happens here is when your biology balances things out, you go off the diet, the behavior and the environmental changes you've made, you've chucked those in, and then because biology is protecting you, saying, I'm going to store fat, then what happens is the seesaw tips in favour of weight gain. And let me tell you a really interesting observation from some new research. A few months ago, research with rats showed that when rats overate, so when they had high-calorie foods, as you would when you go off a diet and you gain weight, it switched off brown fat. Now, brown fat is energetic fat cells on your back and sides that burn fat, that burn energy. So when you overeat, it switches off brown fat, and that reduces your metabolic rate. When you undereat and starve yourself, you lose muscle mass. So if you yo-yo diet, you not only lose muscle mass, you lose brown fat, and to be honest, you stuff your metabolism. So don't stuff your metabolism. The worst thing somebody can do is yo-yo dieting, because those repeated cycles, they cause that weight gain. And I hope some of this background and this new research is really explaining to you why plateaus occur. And somebody can quite feasibly diet up to their weight. So if somebody comes to you with a 20-year history of dieting, the alarm bells should be ringing. They're going to plateau soon, or they may not, in fact, lose weight for the first few weeks. Okay, I'll come back to that point. They may not lose weight for the first few weeks. what happens is there's weight gain and a new higher maintenance level. That's why somebody gains 10 kilos in their 20s, another 10 kilos in their 30s. And I hope you can see how this pattern repeats. It can happen very clearly. Okay, so how do we explain this plateau? Well, unfortunately, our bodies have not found the metabolic tricks that aided survival of the genes. As a result, body fat continues to accumulate unchecked, etc., etc. So physiologically, the experts know that it's to protect these fat reserves. I won't go into all these points about how genes sort of protect our metabolism, but genes influence energy intake, energy expenditure, other things like respiratory quotient, how much fat to carbohydrate that we burn in that. Now, there's not tests for all these things, but somebody could go and have their metabolic rate tested at a university or a lab. Somebody could have a DEXA scan to look at how much fat to muscle they have. And if you've got access to those facilities, they are really objective ways to check if somebody's on a plateau or not. So what are we going to do when we hit this plateau? Okay, we've established the fact that scientifically it's going to happen at some stage. Okay, we know that maybe people with a dieting history, it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Maybe they've got lower muscle mass. Think of the skinny fat person that's, you know, a bit podgy, but their BMI is normal. That's somebody who could have had a dieting history there. What are we going to do? Well, here's your take-homes. 5-step plateau breakthrough strategy. Now, this is the exact strategy that I apply for my individual clients, that I do mostly for telecoaching, or that I apply with my Metabolic Jumpstart program, which is a 4-week program that sometimes people don't get results on, okay? Obvious reasons why. So what do we do? Okay, 1, check body shape changes. 2, check adherence to diet and exercise. 3, adjust behavior and monitor progress. So you change the diet and the exercise. Number 4, you adjust other factors, which I'm going to get to. Stress, sleep. That's what we're going to look at. And then if you don't get a result, refer for a medical check. Now, this is really important. If you think a client might plateau, you should tell them first up, we're going to focus on diet and exercise, motivation and accountability. All that stuff you do really well. But I'd say, look, if that doesn't get you the results, then the backup we've got is, say, a medical check to check there's no hormonal imbalances that are getting in the way. Now, I'm very upfront with selected clients about that because, remember, no surprises when they hit a plateau. It's too challenging for you to try and cope with their frustration at that time. So check body shape and changes. What do? Weight, waist, hips, thighs, chest, upper thigh, calves. Basically measure everything, because then you can see where they're changing their fat patterning. I mean, I'll get people in my discussion that say, I haven't lost weight, I haven't lost weight. And then in the discussion, I'll say back to them, have your measurements changed? And they say, oh yeah, I've lost 11 centimeters off my waist. I go, duh. You know, it's not about weight. If you're actually putting on muscle, you're not going to see the weight change. You need to track as many measurements. And optimally, if you could get a dual X-ray absorptiometry scan, that you're going to know very objectively. So the more measurements you can get up front, I wouldn't encourage weighing more than once a week. And the optimum is just weights at week 1 and week 4. Weight week 1 and week 4. There's no point in getting on. If you're feeling better, you're feeling fitter, your measurements are changing, and your clothes are fitting better, do you need to jump on the scales? I'd say no. It's just that we're so cultured, we're so pre-programmed for that. So check for changes and reassure your clients that even though their weight is not changing, they are changing shape. Number 2, check adherence to diet and exercise. Now, I don't routinely put somebody on an eating diary or journal straight away because they want a diet plan from me that's matched for them. So I use it as a backup. I say, I want you to follow the plan I'm giving you, and if you don't get the results, that's when we're going to check. We're going to go to the audit. So that's when they could write down everything they're eating, and you check and go, oh, look, you're just having too much fruit juice. You know, I set a limit, 200 mils of juice to take your fish oil with each day, and they happen to be having 600 mils of juice. There you go, we've saved some calories. So an audit, whether it's a Calorie King online, whether it's an eating diary, whether it's an app, that can be useful at that time, okay, to check for that adherence for all these things. High fat, high GI foods, high energy density foods, sugar, alcohol, meal skipping, portion size, if they're eating at night. Now, some of these can be emotionally driven, so it can be more challenging, but you want to see where are they sneaking in these extra calories. And then secondly, what about their exercise? How frequent are they exercising? For how long? And what's their effort level? Are they exercising enough? Now, I get a bit of a bee in my bonnet about people walking their dog. If I see somebody walking a fat dog, then I know they are not walking fast enough. As simple as that. And if you look at this effort scale here, I use this with my clients and I ask them, at what effort are you burning? We need to get more people up into this orange and red zone. So they're not only burning calories, but they're building metabolic fitness. And I think this is the way to break through a plateau in somebody who's a walker, you know, or just doesn't put in the effort. If they're exercising at 5, comfortably challenging, then that's sort of like I could jog at this pace forever. They need to get up there to hard and very hard. Now, you guys know better than me that HIIT, high-intensity interval training, is very popular now, and there's great evidence for that for building muscle mass. So somebody's got to have at least 1 session a week of what I call metabolic sessions, and you'll see these popping up, this sort of training. I've been talking about it for 10 years. Metabolic sessions build muscle, build metabolic fitness, and break through plateaus. You guys are the experts on this. So what about that? You adjust the behavior, you monitor it. What if that doesn't work, okay? What if diet and exercise doesn't work? Well, there's other factors that we need to look at. And the other factors are stress, sleep, and hormonal imbalances. And in the last 2 to 3 years, we have seen an explosion in the research on stress and sleep in terms of its influence on body weight. And I think without going into too much detail, I can tell you that people have to manage stress and they have to manage sleep if they are going to have a chance to actually find their best weight and break through a plateau. Now, I know this is tough for you guys because you might say, oh, I'm at the gym, I'm training clients, you know, I don't have time to eat, I'm stressed because of that, I don't sleep, you know, long hours. You might hit a plateau at some stage, or you're imbalancing your hormones because of that, so you have to make this a priority. If you look at this diagram here, which I've only got time to just touch on, cortisol on the bottom right-hand side there, cortisol produced in the adrenal glands. If you go short on sleep or you get stressed, it stimulates that green dot, neuropeptide Y, and when it does that, it triggers the neuron in your brain that says eat. So basically that green part of the diagram says eat, eat, eat. So if you're stressed, you're short on sleep, you have higher circulating levels of cortisol, which give you more cravings and more of that retention of body fat. Okay, complex diagram, just a simple mechanism that we're now aware of for cortisol. So what do you do for stress? There's an offer at the end. I'll send you tip sheets on stress and sleep if you email me. So change the stressor. So you reduce the stress in your life. Now, family, can't live with them, can't shoot them, you know, so you've got to sort of change your reaction to your family, I guess, if they stress you. So think, how can I change the thing that's stressing me? Can I change jobs if the job's stressing? If it's not, if I can't change the job, then change your reaction to it. Meditation, stress management. People think, oh, naturally I should relax. It's not. It's something people have to train, just like diet, just like exercise. And then if you can't change the stressor or the stressee, escape. What that means is run away, take a break, go off and see a movie. As easy as that. Why are movies so popular these days when we've got videos and internet? Because people escape to the theatre for 2 hours to enjoy a movie. So I'll send you some tip sheets on what you can do for stress, but I would introduce some form of stress management, even if it's a relaxation session, into your sessions with clients and tell them we are doing this because this will help you balance your hormones, okay? And I can see trainers doing more and more sort of stress therapy at a very introductory level with their clients. Okay, sleep. I tell you what, I'm a reformed addict here. I used to go very short on sleep. My partner now needs at least 3 hours more sleep on the weekend. So I can spend 3 hours on my phone checking emails, checking product orders, checking research, tagging it. 3 hours in bed before she wakes up because I don't want to disturb her. I get less sleep, but I've had to train myself to get more because what we now know is that sleep debt increases leptin levels, decreases leptin levels, increases ghrelin and appetite, and it stuffs around with glucose tolerance. Basically, and you'll know this, I know this, if I'm short on sleep, I get cravings. I get cravings for junk food, and on occasion, I will have it. I get grumpy. One of the best things you can do for you or a client who's exercising and following their diet but has poor sleep habits is to get some good sleep, and that's my 4-week program. It's just sleeping better, and you'll find that you could get a breakthrough. So make sleep a priority. Research is coming out every day. And then what happens if it's diet doesn't work, if exercise doesn't work, you know, if you haven't balanced the hunger hormones and the cortisol, maybe by easing up on training, then refer for a medical check. I won't read out all these items here. I'll send you a copy of the notes if you email me. But somebody could have impaired glucose tolerance or insulin resistance, or they could have hypothyroidism. They're the two big ones. So you've got to get them a check on their blood sugars, and you've got to get a check on their thyroid. They are the two big ones from their doctor. And if they come back and they've got high blood sugars or they have a low thyroid function, then those things can be making it hard to lose body fat, and then they should get more advice. So remember, at this stage, if they're obese and still not losing weight, you've done your job. You've done your job. So I don't find it stressful to refer a client, because that is the prudent, professional, ethical thing to do. It also reduces your stress levels, because I know some of you guys listening, you're taking on your client's stress and frustration, which I used to do as a trainer many years ago, as a dietitian recently, but I've put 20,000 people through my program. I don't stress, it's just protocol. It's just protocol for these things. So in summary, conscious of time, if you want to outsmart the weight loss plateau, you're going to check diet, portion sizes, food volume. You're going to nourish your body too. I won't even get into the whole issue of nutrient-rich eating and balancing biochemistry, but essentially you've got to eat nutrient-rich. It's not just about calories. Exercise, increase the volume, increase the effort level. Tell your clients why they are putting in more effort. And if that's not working, stress and sleep management. You have to do that. It's like going out on a boat, a brand new boat full of holes. If you don't have those holes plugged with stress and sleep management. And then medical, if it doesn't work, blood sugars and thyroid are going to be very, very important at the end of that. And I think that gives you those step-by-step process to go through that will empower you to be more effective. Also, maybe to explore some of these more avenues in stress and sleep, because if you apply these to yourselves, and I'll tell you what, I'm here to give you a kick in the pants or a nudge to do that as well, you're going to be a better role model and a better motivator and inspirer for your clients. Back to you guys, back Jean, for questions at this stage.
Matt, we do have one question from Elena, and I'll read it out to you. She says, I'm finding a lot of people scared to touch any carb, not understanding how important good carbs are. How do I explain that good starches are crucial for hormonal balance, especially in a very active person, or even where I can see a student is overtraining, yet not losing belly fat and probably due to high cortisol? I've referred them to my nutritionist.
Yeah, good question for that. Couple of quick things. Talk about limited carbs, not low carb. Limited carbs, most people eat too much carbs, so we need to limit them in a day. For example, it could be as low as, but no lower than 3 starch exchanges. In my Metabolic Jumpstart program, we have that as a minimum, because I know if we go below that, you're going to increase your cortisol levels. And I think you have to stress to your client and have them confirm, eyeball you, that the consequence of eating low carb is that you will retain fat. You know, as simple as that. And if they're training harder, of course, then they're burning the candle at both ends, and they're going to get fatigued. Now, there are advocates for low carb diets and saying, you know, we burn fats, we burn proteins, that's okay. But all the sports nutrition research, if you look at what athletes eat, they do not go low carb. It's just not compatible with that training. So limited carbs, and I think they've got to see that you can get results. So if you're referring to a dietitian, for example, then of course they can design a diet plan that has everything in balance for that. If you're just saying, oh, what's your carbs, you've got to be fairly objective about it. And, you know, as a guideline for you guys, minimum of 3 starch exchange. But remember, carbs can also be found as lactose in milk sugar, fructose in fruit sugar. So if you eat too much yogurt and skim milk and fruit, you can be going over as well. So I'd stress that it's important to have that optimal nutrient balance in the diet as well, so somebody's biochemistry is balanced out.
Matt, we've got a couple more questions coming through. Next one is from Lauren, and she says, what do you think about the recent reported research around high saturated fat diets? Can you discuss fats you would recommend? And she's interested in your thoughts on coconut oil as well.
I wouldn't think it was normal to do a seminar without a question about coconut oil these days. So thanks for that question. It's very interesting. Harvard University had a Twitter, like a Twitter webinar the other day, and some of the research that's come out that has people rethinking and saying, did we get it all wrong? Are saturated fats as bad as we thought? That research that says saturated fat is not as bad has actually been criticised by some big names, big professors like Hugh at Harvard University, and talking about the flaws of it. So I know that's not too encouraging to hear that even the bigwig professors are arguing about sort of study design, but I don't think that's the case to say saturated fats are good. I'll get to coconut oil in a second, but I would say that if you are eating small or moderate amounts of saturated fat, i.e. not demonizing saturated fat, but eating it in whole foods, so eating it in cheese, having it in yogurt, you can have full fat yogurt, but it's simply the portions. And give you an example. On Metabolic Jumpstart, we have an exchange-based system. For a dairy, you can have 400 mils of diet yogurt, 200 mils of reduced fat yogurt, or 100 mils of full fat, saturated fat yogurt. And because I know clients can only have 100 mils as that serve size, I know they're never going to eat too much of it. So it's not like, is saturated fat good or bad? It's in whole foods in small amounts. It's probably okay, nothing to freak out about. And I don't freak out about it in my diet. Coconut oil, it's not a wonder oil. It's simply the case that the type of saturated fatty acids in coconut oil are not as bad as we once thought. So it's not like you'd say a criminal who's stopped committing crime is suddenly an angel. You would just say they're just not doing bad stuff anymore. And that's a bit like coconut oil. So there's too much hype for coconut oil. And that said, I think it's fine to eat. There's no problem with it. It's just not saturated. But I wouldn't be in a hurry to swap it for olive oil, which has so many good properties in terms of its fatty acids and antioxidants as well, and the whole lifestyle. Mediterranean diet has very strong evidence for it. So I'm not on the coconut oil bandwagon, but if you want to have it, then I don't think it's too harmful for you, and it's okay.
Good one. A few more questions coming through, which is great. Thanks, guys. Next one is from Avon, who asks, can oversleeping have a negative effect at all, or is it just that you need to get enough sleep?
Oversleeping can, and I think the oversleeping thing can like hotwire your brain to require more sleep. I mean, anything that you do and you repeat again and again can like hotwire some of the biochemistry in your brain. So oversleeping is not so good either. And there seems to be in the research some form of optimum. I mean, if I had to give you a range, it's probably between 5 and 9 hours. 5 and 9 hours. But here's the question for all of us, including myself, who's sleeping less in the last month or two or so, that could be my waterworks. I wake up and I need to go to the toilet. And I think, well, I better get my blood sugars tested. I'm sure it's nothing, but you'll have to find your own optimum sleep. And as we age, we tend to get away with less sleep. Elderly people can sleep 3 or 4 hours a night. So I think you should test yourself, though. Here's a tip for you on sleep. Most people have alarms on their phone. On my iPhone, I can set an unlimited number of alarms. Why don't you set an alarm to go to sleep? And this is a good one for your clients. They love it. Get their phone and ask them if you can set an alarm for them to go to sleep. I mean, we set it to wake up. Why not to go to sleep? Because I think the proof is in the pudding there, in the sleep pudding. It means if you're used to getting 5 and suddenly you go back to 8, and you have parameters and you protect your sleep, you make it very precious, you start to feel more energetic, alive, you get through your day, it changes your priorities. It's a tough one though, but put the effort in for it.
Good one. The last question we've got here is from Estelle, and she asks, what causes belly fat? I've got a client who looks pregnant but is not overweight anywhere else.
It's that fat patterning that I mentioned earlier. Somebody could be a pear-shaped, or somebody could have more of that android, or what we call the apple shape. And it's largely genetic, where people have patterns of fat. I mean, you just look at your parents, and I mean, they're a bit of a crystal ball where you might be heading, as bad as it is. If somebody loses muscle mass, like chronic dieters, can end up with the muffin top of body fat around the middle. And it looks like high cortisol levels may preferentially store abdominal fat as well. So you can have somebody that has that bit of a muffin top if they've got dieting history, chronic stress, cortisol, smoking. Smoking is a factor too that increases abdominal body fat. And I think one thing I'd like to stress, and you've just triggered me to remember it, is Plateau breakthroughs, you need persistence, you need patience, but you also need acceptance. And what that means is that don't push clients to get to their absolute leanest. If you think maybe as a result of this webinar that, wow, this client's, they're healthy, their BMI is fine, they're fit, they're active, they just have a huge problem with this little kangaroo pouch around their middle. I mean, as we all get older, we're not going to be as lean as we once were. So acceptance is important, but of course, do everything you can, but then accept it if you need to. Tough to get your head around that, but well worth it. It's quite liberating. Thanks,
awesome.
Annalie.
Look, Matt, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted very quickly to talk about a couple of real people. I mean, as I said, I've seen thousands of clients, probably in groups and individuals. We're nearly up to 20,000 clients through my Metabolic Jumpstart program, which has given me the luxury of seeing what people do. What does it take? Well, this is Erica here. This is funny. This week, in the last couple of days, I've got an email from Erica saying I'm 1 kilo off my 35 kilos down, and that's amazing. This has taken her 2 years. 2 years to do this, okay? This is Anna. It's taken her a year to lose 20 kilos. A year to lose 20 kilos. The thing in common with these people is their desire and their unwielding determination that they're going to get there. So it's not just a fad thing, it's not I'm trying, they are committed to making this a change in their life. So if you assess your clients and know they're committed to it, they're really going to get those results. But of course, 1 year, 2 year, don't give up. If you're on maintenance, if you're on a plateau, you could be on a plateau for a month. If you know you've got another 10 to go, that's going to be perfectly fine. You're going to be patient, you're going to get there. It's going to be worth it. Final thing, guys, conscious of time, is a big thank you for listening. Thank you. I could talk all day, but I'm going to wrap up. I've got a special offer for you. If you'd like updates on regular research, practical updates, some free tip sheets. I've got about 4 or 5 tip sheets on plateaus, on stress, and on sleep. Feel free to copy those and give those to your clients. Also, a $50 saving on one of my SmartShape courses in nutrition or weight management. Also, $20 saving on my Metabolic Jumpstart program. That's a system you can use with your clients. We have about 10 partners in New Zealand, so we do operate there. And if you email me at matt@smartshape.com.au, then I'll give you those offers. They're valid for a week, and that'll be my nudge to get you through your learning plateau and get you on to implementing some good things. So I hope you take up that offer. Send me an email. I'll send you those freebies. And thank you so much for Annalie for coordinating this. The PT Council, Jean and Di for asking me. It's been a buzz. I wish I could see you all, and have a fantastic weekend and get some amazing results. Break through those plateaus with your clients. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Matt, for that fantastic information. We all really appreciate you sharing your expertise, and thank you so much for your time today. The PT Council, I believe, will probably have a copy of this presentation available to you in the coming weeks, so you'll be able to rewatch it again if you need to refresh your memory about what you learned today. So thanks again to everyone for coming along. Thanks to Di and Jean from the PT Council of New Zealand, and Matt, of course. For now, I bid you all a great rest of the day, and I will now end this webinar. We'll see you again next time.